regular monthly meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Lake Barrington. It is Tuesday, December 4th, 2018, and the time is 7:02. And I'll begin by asking the clerk to please call the roll.
President Richardson.
Here.
Trustee Burke. Trustee Mitchell.
Here.
Trustee Perkins.
Here.
Trustee Rigby.
Here.
Trustee Schaller.
Here.
Trustee Thompson.
Yes. Okay, under agenda item 3 is the pledge to our flag. Can you all please rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Never get tired of saying that. Agenda item 4 this evening is approval of the minutes from our Committee of the Whole and our regular meeting of last month. Are there questions or comments or edits from the clerk at this time? Okey-doke. The chair would like a motion to approve in block agenda items 4A and B, minutes of the Special Committee of the Whole, November 13, 2018, and minutes of the regular Board of Trustees meeting, November 13, 2018. May I have that motion, please? Moved by Trustee Schaller. May I have a second?
Second.
By Trustee Mitchell. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Chair will observe that the record will remain open for a period of 5 business days for any conforming and necessary technical amendments. Agenda item 5 is the President's remarks. We've got some guests here tonight, and I'm going to recognize them and ask them to come up in specific order here in just a moment. But under the President's remarks, and you guys didn't think you were going to get through this without me talking about it. My wife and my younger daughter went to Clemson, and my older daughter and I went to Notre Dame, and they're playing each other. So this may be the last time I'm alive in Lake Barrington up here at one of these village board meetings. So just saying for the record. We have the folks from the Lake Barrington Countryside Park District, Christy Parkinson, our new president, and I would love for you guys to come up and introduce yourselves. And we cannot thank you all enough for this small town's run on volunteer efforts. And God bless you, because this went vacant for an awfully long time. And getting folks to dedicate time to this is always challenging. And you have our profound thanks. We look forward to being a great partner with you. So Christy, introduce yourself and your colleagues. And
my name is Christy Barrington. I'm a longtime resident. I grew up here in Lake Barrington Shores and attended local schools. So I've seen Lake Barrington from when most of these neighborhoods weren't developed. And I just have to say I love the fact that this village maintains the open space initiative and keeps it looking like what it looked like 20, 30 years ago. So kudos to you. I'm going to introduce you to my fellow commissioners. We are a team. People, Kira Pano, Warren Fisher, and Jeff Plata. So we've done a lot in a short time. When did we start? A year ago? Maybe about a year ago. We had a lot of booking, accounting, legal issues that were a mess. Those are in order. We had some delinquencies with government agencies. Those have all been resolved. And all fines actually were waived due to negotiations. And we have learned about new codes for playgrounds and other things, and so instead of piecemealing issues and hearing about cancer studies with rubber mulch, which the surface rubber mulch, we elected to get in front of any potential problems and ripped everything out and started afresh. So there is a brand new playground that we had so much fun planning and picking out. Our childhood favorite items are outside now. And we elected to do a new surface for the bottom, which was the most, I think the most expensive part of the project. It's called a pour-and-play surface. And if you've ever been to the Village of Lake Barrington, or the Village of Barrington's new splash pad, or any type of water park, they have what's like a solid round surface that's like a mat. and it's plastic. There's nothing for kids to pick up and throw. There's nothing for kids to put in their mouth and chew on. It is rated for falling, and it's impact resistant, so it cushions you as you fall, and when you walk on it, it's kind of like being on a moon. It's kind of squishy. So that's what we elected to put in there because it was maintenance free and much safer and durable for the seasons here and everything like that. Oh, and then we partnered with Barrington Area Soccer Association and got them to come in, and they donated soccer goals, and they will maintain the goals at no cost to us, and we just had to notify the mowers to mow around the goals.
Christy, where do you make your home in Lake Barrington now?
I am in Wedgewood Trails, so, and with my kids, we make them walk to the park. It was a mile. We would walk there, and then I would have them all in the stroller and have to push them home up a hill the whole entire way. So.
We welcome a chance for each of your colleagues to just say hello and tell us about why they got interested in. Jeff was probably a bit of a draftee.
I might have been some strong argument.
Yeah, I've seen that movie in another theater.
Well, and we have we set up a Facebook page as well.
Oh, wow.
So we've been actually getting a lot of people to learn about the playground and come and take pictures and just tell everyone things like that. So,
Wonderful.
great. Thank you.
Awesome.
Jeff?
I'm Jeff Talapa. Obviously, Lisa told me about this and got me involved with it. I actually enjoyed it. I was kind of nervous at first about learning all the legal jargon and stuff, but this is a good team that I have here, and I don't say much, but when I do say, they kind of listen. I hope they listen to what I say.
And I'm Warren Fisher. I've been a resident here in Lake Barrington for about 30 years. I think I've been here in front of the board a few times talking about issues of whether it was the gas station going in or issues I've had in my property with flooding and so forth. But I've been involved and hope to be more involved now with the park district, and look forward to partnering with you guys and coming up with ideas on how the new property that was just recently acquired this past year, coming up with ideas on how we can best serve the community. I've been here for, like I said, nearly 30 years, so looking forward to partnering.
Thank you.
I'm Kara Piano, and I've been in Lake Barrington about 3 years now. My husband actually saw the posting for this position and kind of said, hey, if you want to look into it. I was like, okay. So I'm glad that I did. I have 2 small kids, and when it came time to doing the playground, I got a lot of input from those little ones to see what their interests were. So I had a blast getting that for them, and to see them so excited to go over there to play on that was so heartwarming for me. So I can't wait to do so much more, for this playground area, and then also working with you guys later on to do that property that we got. So looking forward to working with you guys.
Where in Lake Barrington do you make your home?
Right off Old Barrington Road, you go up, and I'm on Chesapeake Drive. So less than a mile from here. So, yeah.
It is our practice to let the trustees say hello themselves, so I'll start at my left with Trustee Mitchell.
First off, thank you very much. We were sort of desperate at one point. I was exploring options to try to fold the park district into the board or dissolve it and do something, because we couldn't get people who were willing to take it on, and to have people who were not only drafted but have an interest because of your time here or your family or some other connection to it, down to the level of what's on the playground. And I'm eternally grateful, despite being out of that child care era when you took the shoes off at home and you dumped out and said, oh, have you been to the indoor soccer place, or have you been to the playground? I know what's in your shoes based on that. So thank you and welcome. I really appreciate all of you. And I'm part of the open space and facilities team committee here, and I'm looking forward to working with you. It's going to be fabulous. Welcome.
Trustee Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I share Trustee Mitchell's thanks for doing this for the village. This is just wonderful. And you have a lot of work cut out for you, but I'm sure you're ready for that. And I chair the Community Relations Committee. And like Trustee Mitchell, I'd like to talk to you. And let me give you my cards. If you could take, and somebody give us an email or something, we can get together with you. You know, and just sit down and talk a little bit about how we might be able to help you.
Those will get you a free drink at the bar. Just tell them Jim sent you.
Which bar? We also,
LBS.
we also set up a new email address. So I set up a Gmail, so you can email us at what, Lake Barrington C Park District, is it, or is it countryside? So it's Lake Barrington C, because our proper name is Lake Barrington Countryside Park District. But that wouldn't fit. So it's just Lake Barrington's, the letter C, Park District @gmail.com. So we monitor that and get stuff. So I think we're going to link our phone number to the Gmail accounts and try to.
Terrific.
Excellent, guys.
Yes, thank you again.
Nice.
Trustee Schaller.
Thank you very kindly. I echo my colleagues in welcoming you to a more active role in our wonderful community. I've been here almost 30 years, and I think a park district is very, very important, but we really haven't, unfortunately, other than provide some space here, haven't really done much with that. So the fact that someone is aware of what needs to be done, already has taken charge and made some changes with it, and looks with vision on other possibilities for our community, I think is very important for us. And like we've been saying, who's on what committees? I'm on 2 public safety, so if you have problems, let us know. And we have our Lake County Sheriff's Department deputy back there to make sure that everyone behaves themselves in the park district, and gated communities. And so I know the Enclave and Telegraphs really don't have any type of a park to use. So involving those people in your future plans, and Lake Barrington Shores, while we have a little children's playground, we keep telling them they ought to be using the larger facility that is here, because it is so nice, and plus the ball field, and now obviously your soccer field for that too. So thank you very, very kindly for your volunteerism, and if there's anything I'm sure that the trustees can do to assist, please call upon us whenever. And you can contact Jim, you got his card, but you have to move from Georgia.
Oh, please, not another one.
So thank you very kindly.
Trustee Perkins.
Yes, as the other trustees have said, thank you so much for all that you've done so far, and into the future as well. I think this was probably a long time coming. I've been here for almost 5 years now, and I know we always have to, kind of go to the Barrington or, FRG, just travel somewhere else to go to a real nice park. And this playground out here is fantastic. And we've been on the trails, and the trails look really nice. It was nice. It's it's a great thing that you guys are doing. Thank you very much.
Trustee Rigby.
I learned a long time ago that there's a big difference between saying something and have something to say, and unfortunately all my compadres have said. But I agree with everything they said. And the other thing is, from other 2 young kids, to get their expert advice is wisdom.
We're really happy.
So thank you.
Yeah, I'll just add 2 things. When you meet with Trustee Thompson, we just completed the first, and he'll report on this later this evening. You may not wish to state that later part of the agenda, on voter focus groups or resident focus groups about what differentiates Lake Barrington and what makes us special, and how do we get residents interested in relocating when they think of either leaving the city to come to the suburbs, or they're moving to the Chicago area from out of state. Why us as opposed to a lot of other communities? And I think the work you're doing is a each year we can add to the quiver, another arrow in the quiver of what makes us. And I think collaboration, it might be nice after the project is finished and Kathleen does it, to brief their board
Yes.
on what we found and solicit your points of view on this. You know, when my wife and I moved here, our kids were 6 and 3, and we had tricycles in the driveway and stuff, and now we're the empty nest old folks, and we've got folks like Susie with little kids and tricycles in the neighborhood, and bicycles in the neighborhood again. And parks are a great thing because it gives people a chance to get outside, and I think living life outside is so important. You know, we have a problem with crisis with diabetes and obesity and so forth, and kids who run around and chase stuff and chase each other and play. It's just great. I wish I could have been a fly on the wall of your discussion about what kind of playground equipment. Because I'm thinking about this conversation you must have had, and I'm thinking about how this board would have done that. I see Peggy Hirsch thinking, what is he going to say now? She's a proxy for my long-suffering wife. And if the equipment matched the personalities, I think Chris and I would have been the monkey bar guys, because we're monkeys who belong behind bars. And I really appreciate the Facebook page, and perhaps we can do a link on our website and our Facebook page. Well, best of luck, and please let us know. The welcome mat is out here. We're on the same team, wear the same jerseys.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Okay, we have our 2 consulting firms, Fidelity Consulting Group and Max Strategies, Don Storino and Ryan McLaughlin, here both tonight. And they come during the year, we work with them all the time. I think 2019 is going to be one where Don sweats a lot harder for us than he has maybe in the last couple of years because of changing things in our state and our community. And Ryan, you continue to impress, and I think we're all grateful for both of you on this. Why don't we have you come up together, because you guys work together down in Springfield and know each other in Chicago and stuff, and I know you're friends, and just kind of do a little bit of a conversation with us on what's ahead, what's looking back and looking forward. And Ryan, do you have a PowerPoint you want to put on the screen?
I just thought I'd just give a
Okay,
summary, but I
that's
think I'll distribute it.
Okay.
He gave us a.
Oh, great, super, thank you.
Do you want lots of movies?
Well, since I have the easy part, because he's got to fix everything in our state in the next few years. You know, we are a good team, and we work together with you guys for a number of years. And, you know, when I come before you to talk about what we've done over the past year, there's a number of items. But one thing we're very excited about is a recent meeting I had with Karen and some of the trustees to talk about economic development and sort of this committee and this focus, and I see a number of opportunities there. I've put together sort of a summary of what I think we can do on a regular basis or routine basis to promote that element. That part and parcel is the kind of work that Don does in Springfield with a number of issues for you guys, but I really think this focus of economic development, being a cheerleader for what we have to offer, some ideas that I have that I presented, I know you all are looking at, and some resources that we have. And, you know, one of the conversations, I think it was just one of these things where we were just talking about ideas of local businesses. And I have a relationship with a trade association that represents mom and pop groceries. And I just thought this is something that maybe we could provide an introduction to. And since we do have a track record of having some local businesses here, but also some chains coming to town, this could be an opportunity. So beyond just doing kind of the public relations work, proactive press that we do, dealing with the crises and the challenges that we have, but also thinking of the economic development. And one of the things I'm excited about is helping you all connect the dots. I do think there's some great opportunities, and being that kind of squeaky wheel for you is something that with this new initiative that you're all looking at makes sense because of Speedway as a good example of what we can do. But for these folks here that were here talking about families, that's part of our mission. The other part of our mission is to be a good, as I think we can be a beacon for local businesses, for economic development that helps us in a good segue in the challenging times we face in the state and the country moving forward. You have a summary. We've done a number of things proactively. I am very excited about this economic development thing. It's something I care about personally, with a lot of experience with, and I think it's an opportunity for us to be proactive. And we're going to work as this with Karen and the committee and Andy on these issues, but I think this is a really good opportunity, and we've put together a number of ideas. And I look forward to working with you all on that.
Brian, I'll ask a question, then I'll open it up for comments, and then we'll get to Donnie. What has been the, you're always smarter than you were a year ago because you have more experience, and you have more insight because you've had more experience. What are some of the diamonds in the mine that you found? What encourages you, and what do you think has kind of that flashing yellow light of we better keep an eye on this so it doesn't become a problem? Do any couple of things jump out to you as, well, I didn't think I'd find this, and this has really been great, or gee, when the village did this, they really had a good result that you weren't necessarily expecting going in because you didn't know us?
I think, as I think about, we're still waiting for one story related to the tax levy. And I think that track record, we built that and branded that as year after year, you all are being very good stewards of taxpayer dollars. I like that story, I like that angle. That's been a very successful thing for us. I think the track record of, one of the things we're doing communications is maintaining a continuous flow of information and report. The big things and the little things. And there's a number of things that we've done that are sexy and a number of things that aren't sexy, but continuing to be a resource to the reporters that cover the area. Now we're here and we're focused on kind of communicating to residents. I think we've seen that uptick of interest when we put something out. And what there's no new secrets in this business or new ideas. I noticed a neighboring community following our track on something we've been doing. And I think it's because we've been out there on an issue, and they had a story written about something that you all have been doing for a few years. I saw it, I kind of laughed at it, that, whatever the phrase is, flattery is the most sincere form. Imitation. And I saw that because we're continuing to be a squeaky wheel. I think that's one thing that we're seeing. When you communicate to reporters on a continuous basis, they're in tune, they want to talk to you because we're doing something. And because we're putting things out there, we're in kind of in the midst. I do think some of the economic development is a really neat opportunity. With government, regardless of donkeys and elephants, it's a challenging time. I think you always looking forward thinking, and having speedways with a really good track record that's successful, and the other businesses, part of what we're thinking about is just promoting it. Others may not know this is a good place to do business. It's my job to help get that story out there, and I think I really relish that opportunity because that is one story we can get out there.
Flashing yellow lights?
I think the leadership on some thorny issues that this village has taken, whether it was the Airbnb issue, some other issues, that stepping up, seeing things happen, sort of leaning in on it, I think is a real critical. A lot of folks, whether it's a video gaming issue, being very clear about that, being very clear about Airbnb. You just saw that in the last week, the governor, making a pretty big announcement regarding the company overall. I like that you guys lean in on important issues. And one of the other ideas is with your effort with conservation issues, and I'm sure Don's thinking about it, is the opportunities that you have, probably government that's more open to those kind of things and more open to those efforts. And so there's going to be communities that may not have in or have a track record on conservation. I think this is a governor who thinks, governor-elect thinks that way. So I think you have a track record, and that's an opportunity. But there's always going to be kind of those local pushes and state issues, and you've left communities that kind of sit in the back and hope that nothing's going to happen. I've seen it enough at the back. But I do think having that track record on from a business standpoint, you can be purposeful. A couple of neat ideas I had in there that you guys are looking at are opportunities to educate not only your constituents, but the region overall.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that because consistency, if I've learned anything in political communications over 35 years, the late Henry Hyde used to talk to the Republican lawyers on the Judiciary Committee, of which I was one. And he said, know what you believe, know how to say it, and say it all the time. And I think we do a pretty good job being consistent, and I appreciate the comment about leaning in. You drive the agenda, or it drives you, but there's no third way. And you've been effective in that regard. Before I turn it over to trustees, what I'd like to do is have Donnie do a little forecast, and then we can go around the horn and let people fire questions at both of you that way.
So as you alluded to, Ryan and I do work very well together. He very eloquently stated a lot of what he gets to do. He gets to play a little bit more offense. Unfortunately, I have to play a little bit more defense in Springfield. But one of the things that he did mention that sometimes you forget, so these are good to remind myself. But I believe that Speedway, part of what we do is try to set the table for guys to eat off it, or the village. I believe that we were helpful in putting that traffic control device in at 14 that kind of made that site more appealing for a developer to come in. So, I've been doing this a long time with you guys, and I really appreciate it. So a lot of you know what we do. A couple of highlights. Obviously, as Ryan alluded to, a lot has changed in early November. There'll be a new state rep for Lake Barrington that, interestingly enough, on election night, it would have a 1-vote lead. That ultimately grew a little bit more, but it was interesting to see elections still decided by a single vote. So there'll be a Democratic state rep and a Republican state rep for Lake Barrington, and a Republican senator. In the House and Senate, there'll be supermajorities of Democrats in both houses, and there'll be a Democratic governor, and so there'll be all Democratic rules. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects where we go. Kind of for what we do as lobbyists, we do a lot of blocking and tackling for the village throughout the year on bills, Airbnb, small cell, which I see is on the agenda tonight, and various other things, obviously protecting the local government distributive fund. But the other thing that we try to do where we kind of really earn our bones is with the bringing money back to the village. We try to get it back, provide the village with a good rate of return, ROI. In a perfect world, it's like we try to be around 5x if we could. I think we've kind of operated in that 3 to 4x range, just on the back of a napkin of money that we brought to the village over the last 10 years. Unfortunately, that's because we haven't had as many capital bills as we would have hoped. Traditionally try to get 2 every decade. We've had 1 in the last decade. It's been even more than a decade maybe now, 12 years. So the good news is that, and obviously Ryan knows this because he's super in tune with what's going on in Springfield as well. There's going to be, hopefully there'll be some type of capital bill in 2019. And Karen and I have been working for the last several months about putting together a list of different projects that the village could submit for consideration. It's unfortunate we had a good state rep here in Lake Barrington for a long time. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise that there'll be a Democrat representing Lake Barrington because we have a Democratic governor, so maybe a little bit more receptive to some projects that we submit. But that would be the bright outlook for 2019 for the villages. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of municipalities chasing the same nickel, and we feel like we're in a good position with Ryan's messaging and our work on boots on the ground in Springfield to bring some money back to the village. And again, that's where really we kind of try to earn our chops. Again, I wish it was twice every 10 years would be a lot better, but so we're going to have to really sharpen our elbows in 2019 to get our fair share. So that's what we're prepared to do. That's what we're looking forward to in 2019. Again, the governor will be inaugurated on Monday, January 14th. There'll be a new legislature sworn in on Wednesday, January 9th, and then they'll start the business of putting together that capital plan. I believe it was today, maybe, or that the governor-elect announced Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, so that will kind of be that transition committee. That will probably be what drives the capital plan. But I mean, that's the most exciting thing that I foresee in 2019. Some of the things that Ryan alluded to as well, conservation, obviously, way back when, we got a significant amount of money for the Tarkovsky cleanup and environmental protection. There's been other road resurfacing projects that have come along and various things. So at that, I'll kind of maybe turn it over for questions for us.
I'm going to invite the trustees to address both of you and just to kind of do it together, and then they can consider your agreements in block as well. But I do want to actually take the privilege here and go first. Donnie, for your stuff, getting to know the new political appointees at the key agencies is going to be important for us. The District 1 folks for IDOT. Probably IEPA and IDOT would be the two that would be the most, in the first half of the year. And, maybe not the secretary level, but certainly some of the top political deputies who get to know this. And, IDOT is blissfully organized by geographic region, so it's probably the District 1 folks on this. You know that the village has declined the offer of the state to widen Route 22.
Yes.
And that point of view remains firm.
Which side are we on?
Yeah, just like we would oppose the widening of Route 59 north of 22 to Kelson Road. The second one is we are only IMRF and our employees for pension obligations. The reason we could hold the line and not raise property taxes in 5 years is our predecessors wisely put us in a position where that was the pension retirement vehicle that they chose early on. It was the right one for us. 90% of our budget more or less is outsourced. Lake County Sheriff, Cuba Township Roads, waste management. So we are lucky. I have no inside information because I don't work that beat down there like you guys do, as I did years ago. But any effort to combine IMRF with the bankrupt state pension funds would be a serious problem for us. So please know as you make your notes, that is a very big deal for us. And then local government distributed fund, you mentioned it, Donnie, already. I know this idea was floated a couple of years ago, but the notion of means testing it based on per capita or median income, it would be a very neat hat trick politically. I get it, but we would be on the receiving end of that, not on the dispensing end. So I'm not, keep an eye on that, specifically the whole notion of means testing. Because I fear that's coming around. So new agency heads or deputies, IDOT and IEPA, and watch LGDF and make sure that any pension program reform does not try to combine IMRF with the other funds that are in such trouble. Other trustees can certainly add to that list when we go around the horn here. And Ryan, on the messaging side, the Park District being here tonight is a great one because as you work with Jim Thompson and Kathleen Scott on the Lake Barrington value proposition publicly, our big win, given the challenges of the state, people leaving the state, is why here compared to someplace else, because we've got publicly accessible open space. Other communities may have open space, but it's privately owned, and the only way you access it is through criminal trespass. Here you have oodles and oodles of it. And we made it possible for the Forest Preserve District of the county to acquire 2 of the big parcels because of policy decisions we made with regard to tree preservation and zoning and land use with regard to residential construction. So know that if you see opportunities for us to advance the brand on this, that's what it is. And you're really dialed into the oasis of gracious countryside living notion. And then the other side is we're a great place to do business. And I'll give the administrator and trustee, Bert, say something nice about him because he's not here. A lot of credit for giving you some of the messaging there. and I want to push the envelope, talk about leaning in. You know, we went to the shopping center show for the first time to kick the tires and learn our way around. I think we've got to have more aggressive things. Donnie, if there is a IEPA grant program, for example, that helps replacement costs for park equipment, that's perfect for these folks. So those are the kinds of things I want you guys focused on. As Donnie has said, I'm both your best and your worst client because I do this for a living too. So I appreciate this. Let me yield now to right to Trustee Rigby for comments or questions to either of both of you.
Can I address one thing?
Sure, please.
So while these folks are here talking about it in a Facebook page, I mean, that's an opportunity for us to put out a press release, announce it, and to the, you know, talk about it and get that out there and fold them into what we're doing. If that's something that you would like us to do, I think we can do that. And whatever content that they have, we can fold it in and vice versa. And it's, so I do, to that point, you know, being here, I think is fortunate seeing that. So that's something I think we can do.
Well, let me build on that. Perhaps you and Jim can have a conference call with them to talk about how you can assist the Park District in their communications as well.
Sure.
I'm sorry, Trustee Rigby.
Just a short comment. Last spring, I had the opportunity to accompany Big Hog members down to Springfield, and we talked to a number of representatives. The specific issue was groundwater, and but we talked a few other issues as well. And first of all, it's a great learning experience to go and see it. And secondly, in your tramping around in that area, I think, and I only speak for myself, but I think all the other trustees, if you see an opening for us to help out in any way in your endeavors, please call on us. That's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you for the offer. Trustee Perkins.
I really don't have much to say, but thank you very much for all the research and all that you've done to dig into all of this.
Trustee Schaller.
Thank you. Don, I was just wondering, you were talking about getting to know, as President Richardson has said, some of the leaders of these various committees. What game plan do we have for getting to know our new legislators, and would it be beneficial to bring some of them before this board, many of which perhaps haven't been here before, or to establish a better relationship? Is there a plan for that, or you just have day-to-day business?
That's a great point. Yes, there's a plan. I mean, it's never too early to start, you know, so I think that it wouldn't be a bad idea for myself and whoever to reach out to the new state rep. I obviously don't know her. She has not, you know, been involved in politics to the best of my knowledge, at least not in Springfield. So, I mean, the last time I was here, I believe the state rep was here too. So, I mean, they've been involved before. Lake Barrington's unique. We still have Representative McSweeney and Senator McConchie, so they know Lake Barrington. Dave may live here if I'm not.
Yeah, he lives in Barrington.
Sorry.
But I've been friends with him for 25 years.
Exactly. So, and they're really good at, I mean, so when I go and see them, I don't have to do a lot of explaining about Lake Barrington. Again, I'm slightly embarrassed, so I apologize. I'm not sure where Mary Lee Allen, the new state rep, lives exactly in the district. But yes, that's a great idea. I plan, you know, on, like I said, January 9th, she'll be inaugurated. I plan to go see her at, you know, 12:15. I introduce myself and tell her I represent Lake Barrington, and, you know, let her know, well, like, as the president just articulated, the issues that are important to the town, and give her my contact information so that when she does have, you know, issues, that I can encourage her to vote her district at the very least, so and protect what's important for the village of Lake Barrington. So that's my plan. But Getty, listen, I can only do so much. It's obviously much better, you know, to Trustees Rigby's point, to have you guys engaged as elected officials with her goes a lot longer than me. So, and I'm happy to accompany you on that meeting. I think inviting them to the board meetings is not a bad idea at all. You may want to, you know, let them get sworn in first, but, you know, obviously the holidays now and all that. But unfortunately, you know, they started January, the calendar's been released. We're, you know, 2 to 3 weeks in January, 3 weeks in February, every week in March, 2 weeks in April, and every week in May. So it's a pretty full calendar, and then they adjourn May 31st. So between the time that she gets sworn in and May 31st, it'll be it may be difficult, other than weekends.
Right, yeah, but as trustee Rigby had indicated, I think we all are willing to do whatever is necessary to.
Absolutely, and as I alluded to, she'll be a Democrat, she is a Democrat,
Right.
and it's gonna be a Democratic governor, so that will be helpful, hopefully.
Hopefully. I think one concern I have, I know there's a big effort on consolidation of government units, and obviously since this village relies on Cuba Township for our Public Works Department, I think the last thing we would want to happen would be for Cuba Township to go away or be consolidated, or in some instances, I think they're going to the county if they dissolve some of those services. I don't necessarily know if that would be in our best interest, so I would think our position would be to try to keep that separate.
And it's another really, really good point. I believe last week the bill passed. In fact, Representative McSweeney was the sponsor in the House, and it was the consolidation was specifically for McHenry County, to the best of my recollection, and it did allow the voters to do consolidation based on referendum. You know, the previous governor, existing governor, thought consolidation was very important. I'm not sure where this governor will come down, but as you know, finances become more constrained, if there is duplicity in government, it makes sense to get rid of it, but it doesn't always make sense. And as you correctly pointed out, if you get rid of a highway, I believe in McHenry Township they were specifically targeting highway townships. And you know, if you get rid of that, that has to fall somewhere. Somebody's got to take responsibility for it, and obviously it's the village. And as you said, and the president said, you guys outsource most of your stuff anyway. So I don't know how you would absorb that.
That's right. You'd have to go to the county again.
You have to find another person to outsource it to.
Yeah.
So, but yes, we follow consolidation really closely because it obviously is so important, impactful to especially a town like Lake Barrington.
I do know these are terrific points that my colleagues are making. I know that it's been discussed in the past at a very high umbrella level. It hasn't been any kind of detail, but the notion of what happens if that were to occur. And there's probably 6 or 7 under the BACOP umbrella. There could be a public works capability done by intergovernmental team that would provide much, probably buy the assets from the existing township organization that would be going away. And maybe even kind of like when a private equity firm or a venture capital, when a private equity firm buys a company in trouble, you buy the assets, you buy the people, and then you operate it. And so I know it's been discussed, but it hasn't been discussed over more than maybe 2 glasses of wine in the back of a cocktail napkin. And I appreciated both Trustee Rigby and Trustee Schaller's points about reaching out to our new state rep. I've not met her either. I think that's a superb idea. Donnie, why don't you take the notes that you've been writing down and draft a Lake Barrington Springfield agenda, just bullet points that we've been talking about. Send it to me. You and I'll shape it up, and then we'll share it with everybody on the board. So that way when you go in and to talk to Dave and to Dan and then to meet Mary, you can say, you know, here's what they're interested in. Here's what you can help us with. And certainly invite her to come here. Our meeting is on the 8th, but anytime she's in town on a Tuesday night, we're meeting. The welcome mat is out, the coffee's on, and we always put the electives up front, the president's remarks. So, John, I really appreciate your comment there.
I just had one question for Ryan. The landscape is changing in publications and who you have to reach out to, and obviously we don't have beat reporters here covering village board meetings and stuff like that. How more difficult is it for you to get the cooperation and the visibility in the publications that you make contact with these days, and how successful I am?
Yeah, it's a little Pollyannish for me, but it's a real shame. And you know, what's happening in the media world, you have reporters who are business reporters, or healthcare reporters, or transportation reporters. That's all going away. And it really is tough. It's a little bit of a disservice, I think, to the community, because you have reporters that have to write about 12 things they don't know what they need to do. They need to tweet, they need to put a blog out, start taking pieces of information Which sometimes if you give them information, it's helpful, but they can't dig into these things anymore. So what we have tried to do is let them know about major developments so they can write about it. A good example, the most recent example is the tax levy. You know, this is what we did, this is something proactive, let them know, set up the opportunity to have it. So that's part of being the squeaky wheel, looking at opportunities here to say we can put out a press release to those people that can't be here because they do need to fill some content. So it's a challenge across the way, but part of kind of being visible with them, keep communicating with them, lets them know that you guys are doing stuff and we're on the radar screen. But it's a real challenge. We do have, I think we're fortunate here, we do have a series of reporters who are dialed into this community. And for instance, about 3 months ago, one of the reporters called me by accident thinking I was working for one of the other communities. He didn't know who can I call. And I said, well, you know, here's who you can call. But that's because we're the squeaky wheel. But it's a huge challenge. So that's why we sometimes create content to get it out there. Because they can't be everywhere, like you said.
Yeah.
They don't have the resources. They're operating on a shoestring budget. I mean, look at what's happening with all the newspapers and, you know, Chicago Tribune sometimes. Probably for the next 10 years, we're going to have one newspaper in Chicago, which is a real shame. So we have to give them that information. It's good for them that they can write about it, so they can let their readers and subscribers know. So that's why we're a little bit more aggressive with putting information out. But to answer your question, it's tough.
Yeah. I think one of the, and you probably have a pretty good connection already, but I would say the Daily Herald's business ledger has certainly done an awful lot. You're talking about economic development. That thing comes out every week. I get an email every day of their top stories. And I think to, you know, make sure we get some presence with that.
You're completely right. To their credit, they've sort of taken the suburban market of that a little bit away or competed with cranes. So they do write about that. So that economic development. Part of the suggestion I gave was for us to build in some wins and then sit down and do some meetings to talk about what we're doing. But that's exactly the case, and they cater to suburban communities talking. You're exactly right. What they're doing over there is very solid.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
We have great questions. Trustee Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Donald, first of all, I want to thank you, as everyone else has, for all you're doing for us in beautiful downtown Springfield. Thank you. And also, I'm really glad that you're working with Village Administrator Karen Dalton-Lang on that infrastructure, because that's going to be very important to us as we go forward. And it's also a great example of what you're doing on our behalf. I want to thank you for that. Ryan and I have worked together a bit, and he's really great. And this is before you leave tonight, perhaps you and I can meet with our Lake Barrington Park District people and set up an initial meeting to start working with them, because they're going to be a really terrific opportunity for us with the residents. I also want to thank you for your work on Shop Lake Barrington, the website, and also the farmers market. Ryan's been a great help in developing ideas for the farmers market and for giving us the publicity that we need for it. And he's going to be working with us again in 2019. So I think that's about all, but thank you both very much.
Trustee Mitchell.
Yes, thank you. And I will start. A big thank you to both of you for what you've done in the past and what I know that you're going to continue to do in the future. I'm delighted and feel especially beneficial that we can afford to have a professional presence in Springfield and particularly in the media. You've done a really nice job, Ryan, putting that out there. The ideas that you've got in here are fabulous, particularly some of the forums and things. And what I am finding from friends in other areas, other markets that are still in the business these days, is they're getting the biggest return, the biggest bang for the buck out of becoming, not deep throat, but becoming the behind-the-scenes source for balanced, unbiased information, because then the reporters, people writing the stories or whatever, whether it's, in Boston or Maine or anywhere else, are coming to them and going, what's this about? give me the scoop. And then run a story. The next thing you know, then you've got that ability to do that. So that's invaluable because I mourn the loss of a newspaper, a paper, and I remember feeling incredibly accomplished riding on the subway in Boston and learning how to fold your paper, depending on whether it was a broadside, whether it was the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal. There was a certain way that you could fold it and sit in the seats and not upset your other neighbors and riders. And I remember getting to that. By the end of the day, you get home and you take the paper out and you say, my wife's like, here's the paper. You want to see? She's like, origami or what? But we mourn that because there was, and the ability to have a courier or something like that where there is someone sitting at the meeting. There are a few smaller villages in this country that still have a true local paper where they hire beat reporters who know everything from the planning, everything from the Conservation Commission, and do that. And that day's gone here. That train has derailed. It's not left the station, it's derailed, it's gone. So I appreciate what you do. Thank you. And Mr. Storino, I don't know how to thank you enough for what you've done. I do have a few other suggestions. I appreciate the fact that, whether it was the stoplight or other things that have come about because of being able to do that, or an OSLAD grant, which there's another one pending, which is really nice. Karen was so on top of this that we got that 30-day window when the OSLAD grant was available to apply, got it in there.
Donnie's got some information on that as well.
And so it was unbelievable. It was simpatico. It really worked out beautifully. So thank you for that. And that's the stuff that distinguishes us, makes us, that our, people will come on the park board and go, wow, we should have been doing this for years. And the things there. Couple of things, and I definitely agree, the new governor and the administration in a weird sort of way could be more receptive to some of the things that we're interested in. And I appreciate you doing that, particularly coming from open space and conservation, whether it's OSLAD or some other things. And I don't know how I can say it enough times or whatever, but we really need to make sure that the state comes back to our full 10% share on the state income tax collections, that there's no more skimming. I mean, they can skim in Vegas, they can skim at Potawatomi in Connecticut, they can skim at the White House, but this idea that the local communities are supposed to maintain themselves with dad and mom closing the wallet and taking away the credit cards and just using the credit cards for themselves, it's going to strangle us. So the work that you continue to do on that is really big. And the diversions, the CPPRT, and whether it's OSLAD money they skimmed out, MFT, or any of this sort of stuff. And I think that's where there's some combo work that can be done if we can tie a project that we do to where this funding came from and how it originated and the importance of it to a local community. There's a PR story, and there's tremendous chances. And finally, then I'll stop. Mr. President gives me the hook here. When I first moved to Illinois and got involved in BACOG and the village and these things, and I walked in and I'm like, wait a minute, Council of Governments, why is there, this is 92 square miles or whatever, why isn't there just one, municipal group and everything else? And then I made the dumb suggestion, well, we need to consolidate, and that if they had guns, I would be a dead man. So I look at that a little differently now. I think there's some areas for consolidation and doing that. I think it should not be done as a vendetta bill or any other attempts to I won't use the term, to totally make someone impotent in being able to do their jobs. It's not there. But I think more important is our protection under home rule, and that continue, and then I think every village, every town should be able to do that. And so anything that takes away our ability to control if the county decides suddenly they're going to allow anything on an unincorporated parcel that is almost surrounded before it's annexed and says, oh yeah, we let them do this, and the village goes, wait, what do you mean? Well, we can't regulate that. And so whether it's the 1.5 miles past our borders, or there has been underway a need to disembowel the power of the villages. And anything that, and you're fabulous about this. We get an alert, a notice, we get an alert instantly, which says, there's a chance this bill could see the light of day. So that's the stuff that I think is really key. Anything, these moves to take our funding or take our power, not let us have a say in the things that happen to us that we have to end up paying for. It goes back to the old unfunded mandates. So, take a breath. Thank you. You both are just...
Look, you guys, to kind of wrap some of these things together, it's real simple, whether it's dealing with government at higher levels, the county, the state, the federal government, or dealing with the press. You're either at the table or you're on the menu. You're at the table or you're on the menu. And you guys have brought real sophistication to make sure that we have a voice. Years ago, there was quite a debate on this board about whether we should have guys like you. And the notion was, well, we're just a little town, and my point was at the time, the only way we protect the character of this small town that we treasure is to act with the same sophistication that the city of Chicago does. And the notion that we could just hope it passed us by, if there were a time like that, is as gone with the wind as anything else in the distant past. This is no longer the Carl Sandburg, Illinois. It's a much different state. And so you guys have really pulled this together. I think you've got a lot of talking points, Donnie. Meeting the new agency head, grants with a capital bill, watching for IMRF combination or LGDF means testing. Think of ways to bring us to Springfield or to engage us here locally with our legislators, especially the new one at the state level. Watch the consolidation bills that affect townships because of our role with the Township Roads District, and protect home rule were kind of the highlights I got, Donnie. And then you kind of put those in a pretty form and circulate them, and you and I'll massage them, and then we'll let everybody edit them and add to them so that there's a chance to put additional things. And that way you've got a program you can present when you meet with folks, and we have something we can measure you by. So, and Ryan, you work closely with Andy and with Jim, and God bless you for it. We've got a great story to tell. We just need to tell it louder and more often. Okay, thank you.
With respect his honor. You want to be like Chicago, we could do that. I just remembered this Thursday, Janet Aguiletti has set up a meeting with Ann Gillespie, Senator-elect Ann Gillespie. And I will be going on behalf of BACOG to meet her at the Barrington Village Hall at 4 o'clock. So she is taking Senator Tom Rooney's seat. And we were debating, we wanted to meet with some of these people, so it's not directly here for us, but in this area. And so that's this coming Thursday, and I'll be glad to pass along information after that to see what her, sort of feel out what her priorities are. So.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I'm planning on going for the village, because our president's unable to be there. So,
You can both go. No open meetings act violation, it's just the two of you.
We can have half a brain.
We're pretty darn close.
Thank you, Desire.
Thanks, fellas. Chair would like a motion to consider in block agenda items. Karen, you put them under the consent agenda. Okay, then we'll take care of that in just a moment, and that should be fine. We'll move then to agenda item 6 real quickly, which is the first opportunity of the agenda for the public to address the board on non-agenda items. I see no one seeking recognition, so we can move to agenda item 7, which is the consent agenda. And here we move a variety of motions together in a omnibus fashion. 7A, is the resolution to extend the contract for lobbying services with Fidelity. B, consideration of the contract to extend the contract with Max Strategies. And I'll just make 2 other points on this. Mr. Bateman and I have worked on these form agreements for many years together, and I've used them in my private practice a lot with lobbyists around the country and elsewhere. There's a 30-day with or without cause termination provision. There is an in perpetuity confidentiality provision, and there's a flat rate monthly fee. So the reason I like this form so well is we know exactly what our obligations are, what our exposure is, and we have 30 days with or without cause. So both agreements are in the interest of the village, but I wanted to just point out those 3 provisions in particular. 7C, approve the village board and plan commission regular calendar for 2019. And D, consideration of an ordinance for the levy and assessment of property taxes for the village of Lake Barrington, Lake County, Illinois, for the fiscal year commencing on the 1st day of May 2019 and ending on the 30th day of April 2020. And E, small cell wireless facilities. And Mr. Baker, do you want to just quickly comment on that?
Sure. So last, earlier this year, we adopted a new small wireless facilities deployment ordinance that was based on the mandate of the state statute. Unfortunately, subsequent to our adoption of that ordinance to basically follow state law, the Federal Communications Commission issued a mandatory order on September 26, 2018, which mandated basically that we change those regulations in various ways. In a nutshell, our ability to charge fees goes down somewhat. The timing within which we have to process applications for small cell wireless facilities permits is shortened. The height restrictions that were in the state statute are raised from 45 to 50 feet. The size of facilities, it's interesting that the FCC reduced the size of the basic small wireless facilities box, but then they increased the size of the other ground-based equipment. So it's just really kind of a mixed bag in terms of the issues that we're concerned about. But at the end of the day, for example, the state allowed 6 cubic feet of volume for a small cell facility, whereas the feds only allow 3 feet. On the other hand, the state allowed 25 feet for ground-based equipment, and the state and the FCC allows 28 feet. So it's inconsistent. I think at the end of the day, I suspect that the state of Illinois will come around and amend their statute to comply with the federal mandate, which preempts the state and local ordinances as well.
Thank you. The administrator just pointed out to me I misspoke under 7D on the dates. It's the 1st day of May 2018, ending on the 30th day of April 2019. So I misspoke, and I apologize for the error. Chair would therefore like a motion to consider in block agenda items 7A through E as discussed and as stated in the recommended actions of the consent agenda. May I have the motion to so moved by Trustee Scheller, second please.
Second.
By Trustee Mitchell, thank you both. I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Scheller?
Yes.
Trustee Mitchell?
Yes.
Trustee Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Rigby?
Aye.
Trustee Thompson?
Yes.
President Richardson?
Yes, thank you. Ryan, before you scoot, your point about the death of the newspaper, the ink on paper newspaper. I spend a lot of time in London, and they still have. Now, London's about 8 million people. It's more like New York, but in New York, you got the Post and the Times. They have 9 major newspapers every day in London. And, newspapers have survived in Europe a lot more. I mean, their circulation is way down over 10 years too, but every day I can pick the Sun, the Daily Mail, the Evening Standard, the Daily Mirror, the Times, the Daily Star, the
Financial
Daily
Times.
Telegraph, the Daily Express, Financial Times, the Guardian. And here, we may not have a Sun-Times or a Tribune in 5 years. So your lament is one that I share. So thank you. Okay, well then we can move on to agenda item number 8. And Donnie and Ryan, if we don't see you, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, guys.
The treasurer's report, Mrs. Hirsch.
Good evening. So we have before you tonight the review of the financial statements for the 6 months ended October 31st, 2018. So we are 6 months through our fiscal year. It's 50% of our fiscal year. So we'll start with the flash report on page 2 of your packets. You'll see that we have assets of $2,596,000, current liabilities of $797,000, and our equity is $1,799,000. And so our liabilities plus our equities equal our assets at $2,596,000. We have total revenues of $1,649,000 and total expenses of $1,316,000 for a net income year-to-date of $332,000. So as we've done in the past, down below that bolded line, we're breaking out our unusual or extraordinary, we call them extraordinary expenses or revenue items. And once we do that, we come up with our regular operations, our net income from regular operations of $266,000 compared to this point last year of $221,000. You see we're running pretty much on course with last year. Sales tax is a little bit higher, as is income tax than at this point than last year. We can turn to page 11 and 12 for our budget, excuse me, comparison of the actual budget. And you'll see on page 11, our revenues are at 55% actual budget, so we're trending slightly ahead of where we're at with 6 months. I've mentioned in the past that real estate taxes have been fully collected, as have business licenses and food and liquor licenses. So that will skew that percentage a little bit higher at this point in the year. On page 12, you'll see our expenditures were at 44% actual budget, so we're trending slightly behind budget, but it's obviously pretty close to being right in the middle there. I don't really have anything unusual to point out. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are questions at this point on the actual budget or any of the actual numbers that matter for the general fund.
Anything out of the ordinary?
No.
Yours is an area where dullness is a great thing. I don't like excitement.
It's hard to go later in the meeting when you guys are already kind of a little bit sleepy. It's like, oh.
I want excitement elsewhere on this board, but not in finance.
I just want to point out she is not dull.
No.
Why, thank you.
No. But I appreciate a dull report from an interesting person.
There we go. That's better.
Okay.
Well done.
Okay, let's turn to page 13, the motor fuel tax fund.
Now it gets exciting.
Yeah, it's now we're looking. All right, so you'll see $194,000 in assets there. That's current assets. So we've pretty much paid for all the road work. There's a little bit left to pay for Savannah road work. That was through the motor fuel tax fund, about a $41,000 retainage. You can see it's more well than covered, and we're building some funds for next year's road work, should we decide to use motor fuel tax fund. There's no other expenses anticipated from that fund this year as well. Excuse me, I'm going to grab my water, I apologize.
And we're getting those funds on a regular basis now, the motor fuel tax, pretty timely?
We get everything once, we are getting paid once a month from the state.
Yeah.
It's 2 months behind, no taxes, but we are being paid monthly. So no complaints there. Page 17 is the water sewer fund. We have net current assets in there of $1,460,000. I believe we're pretty much done with any of the repairs we're doing this year. You'll see a request in the warrant for the final bill for the painting for the water filters that were painted. That's the final payment for that one on there, but we're pretty much done with the work in that fund for this year. That's good to know. Page 21, you'll see the balance sheet for the open space fund. That's going to get extremely simple after tonight's meeting. You'll see a request to spend the money in the open space checking account there, $887,993 for the Featherland property purchase that we discussed on warrant C. There are no longer funds in this fund available for operating expenses. Checking account there for open space bonds, that is just for the payment of the bond, interest and principal. Unless there's a way we generate income in that fund, we're done taking in revenue on a regular basis in that.
Does the fund then just close down and go away?
No, we'll still be paying the bonds in there, and I mean, I don't know if we'll ever collect usage fees of the, property or what's in the future for the,
But its functionality is more limited and reduced to
when there's no cash in there, correct?
Just like the checking account.
Yeah, that's right.
Didn't we do some deal where this fund and the general fund had some agreement on, not quite a loan, but,
Years ago, there was a repurposing of open space funds for road work. I believe that might be talking about. And that
So
was
one time.
one time, 8 or 9 years. It was before I was here.
So it's 10.
okay. Thank you.
And then finally on page 25, we do this once a quarter. We recap the expenses going through the maintenance account. And it's just, they're recapped by vendor. And you'll see they're predominantly Cuba Township. And you'll see on page 25, in fact, this year, Cuba Township is our only vendor so far, performing any road work out of the non-motor fuel tax road maintenance. And these are the items that we mentioned that we typically pull out as your extraordinary expenditures on that, page 2 of the flash report. That's where these come from. So that's all I have for the report. Before I get to the warrants, are there any questions on the financial statements?
No. Any questions for the treasurer?
I have one thing I would like to mention. I did receive an email from a resident who was very concerned. He said he's been reading about various Illinois cities with increasing property taxes up to 40% to cover unfunded pension liabilities. And he wanted to know if Lake Barrington was one of those such cities. And I was quick to assure him that there are no excessive unfunded liabilities on this balance sheet. Employees of IMRF, contributions are made timely as required by the fund, and everything is in good order. And he wrote back, looking for his exact response, because I really wanted you to know that it was really should not have been directed at me, but to you, the trustees. He said, thank you for taking care of this for the residents. So I did write back saying I will pass it along to the trustees. I wanted you to know you have a resident who's grateful for your hard work in keeping the tax levy flat.
But, it's always great when people can kind of discover that. And that's actually part of what Brian's job in communicating, because it's part of our value proposition. We don't have a lot of surprises for taxpayers. Adverse ones.
No. So I do have a couple of comments about the warrants. There's just one unusual request on warrant A. And if you look at the water sewer fund, it's U.S. Water Services and Tonka Water Division. This was actually approved at the July 10th, 2018 Board of Trustees meeting, and for inspection of the painting of the filter equipment after it was done. And then warrant B, once again for the water sewer fund, there's a request for BP&T, $44,618,000, and that's the final pay request for the painting of the water of the filter tanks. And then warrant C, that's one of our unusual warrants this evening, and that is for the purchase of the Featherland property. The total amount requested is $371,000, and you can see the warrant does detail where those funds are coming from, which accounts on the balance sheets. I'm happy to answer any questions on that.
I might add that the number of that that's going to get wire transfer in Chicago title for the Featherland property is determined by the fact that we already have a I think it's a $57,500 earnest money deposit that's in escrow with Chicago Title already.
Yep. You should have more.
Is there a transfer tax or anything?
No, municipalities
Exempt.
are exempt, whether we're a buyer or a seller, municipalities are exempt from transfer tax. So in effect, the seller in this case does not have to pay a transfer tax because we're getting the property. And if we were selling a property, we wouldn't have to pay a transfer tax because we're selling.
Like with CFC.
Right, exactly.
Same thing.
I see they get a credit for the real estate taxes. That taxes should go down appreciably without a building moving forward.
Right, and those taxes are, we'll hold that money until the tax bills come out, and then we'll kind of square that up with the petition for tax exemption that we'll file with the county.
Yeah.
Good job putting this together. Yes, it's so complicated.
And you'll see the $14,000, that number is sort of a plug, that's coming from the general fund.
Well, this is wonderful. Thank you for the hard work that this represents.
And I thank Debbie Brennan as well.
Well, certainly. And duly noted, I'll ask Karen to mention
I
that. Questions further for the treasurer? Okay, then Chair would like to, anything further, Meg? Chair would like a motion to approve the block agenda items 8A through D as noted above on the agenda. A, approve the financial statements as of October 31, 2018. B, pay bills in the amount of $172,765.71 as listed on the accounts payable warrant A dated December 4, 2018. C, pay bills in the amount of $58,177.55 as listed on the accounts payable warrant B dated December 4, 2018. And D, authorize the wire transfer of $371,000 as listed on the accounts payable warrant C dated December 4, 2018. May I have a motion to approve in block?
So moved.
By Trustee Reed,
Second.
thank you. Seconded by Trustee Thompson. Thank you both, gentlemen. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Rigby.
Aye.
Trustee Thompson.
Yes.
Trustee Mitchell.
Yes.
Trustee Perkins.
Yes.
Trustee Schaller.
Yes.
President Richardson.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. We can move then to agenda item number 9, the administrator's report.
Sure. A couple weeks ago, I met with the relatively new executive director of the Barrington Area Library, Jesse Henning. We had a very fruitful conversation. We discussed the services the library provides, and one of the interesting tidbits he gave me was that the village of Lake Barrington is the highest user of the library other than the village of Barrington. So we have more residents checking out things and using things. We talked, I put him in touch with a contact at Lake Barrington Shores, because they said that might be an area that they might want to reach out to. So he's going to follow up with that.
Can I make a comment here?
Sure.
You don't even have to go to the library anymore. You can check a book out online.
Yeah.
Carolyn, do it all
You
the
can also read it online.
You can read it
You can
on
read it, they have wonderful, and when I first got the Overdrive several years ago, for downloading books and books on tape, that I still call them that, but they're not. I went in and just said, just tell me how to do it. I don't have time to look this up. And the librarian was like, great, I know.
Well, you borrow them, and if you don't read them, they disappear after about 3 weeks.
Yeah,
And
right.
no
Yeah, they say they warn you that they're going to take it back.
Yeah, no late
But
fees.
you don't have to finish reading it all in one.
No, you can recheck it out.
Right.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, if you're reading it, let's say it's 30 pages, you get 15 pages in it, then you
Oh, yeah.
can go back to it and it will take you right back to the place where you left off.
He said the library is, like their meeting rooms are almost always booked. The community uses a lot of their meeting rooms, both the larger and small ones. I can attest that because our Spring Creek Watershed Partnership meets there. And at the time our meeting is supposed to be done, there's someone knocking at the door like, get out. So it's pretty good. Just a reminder that this Friday, December 7th, is National Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day. And when I wrote this, I said our flags will be at half flown and half staff, but they already are due to President Bush's passing. So, again, I'd just like to thank the Barrington Countryside Fire Protection District for taking care of our floods at Village Hall. It's wonderful. In January, the end of January, I will be participating in the presentation Flooding and Green Infrastructure, Thinking Outside of the Ordinance, on behalf of the Plant Creek Watershed Partnership in BayCog. Our target audience will be basically anyone having a responsibility for evaluating, improving, or implementing a development plan or redevelopment project, or interpreting the stormwater management ordinance. So basically, plan commissioners, trustees, homeowners groups. Janet in BayCog is doing a lot of that advertising out, and it's going to be at McDonald's from 6:30 to 8:30 with food served, and we're going to have a couple sponsors for it. So, looking forward to that. Also wanted to bring up on the electric outage that we had last week with the storm. We had 110 customers out in Lake Barrington. Most of the hardest hit area was Barrington Harbor Estates, where our village clerk lives. I contacted our ComEd External Affairs Manager, and she told me they will be having their, what they call a reliability team, take a look at the circuit feeding in the Barrington Harbor Estates neighborhood, because it was they were out for like 2.5 days. Yeah. And then when restoring customers, ComEd does focus first on critical services such as first responders, hospitals, senior citizens, and then the company prioritizes work that will get restored by the greatest number of people at a time. So obviously with that storm that we had last Monday, really Sunday, Monday, a week ago, it was all over the place. And you know, Arlington Heights was out for several days in a lot of denser areas, so it took a little longer for us. Also, something that is coming to our attention is revisions to the Americans with Disability Act, the ADA, have been adopted in Illinois. We're still trying to figure out all of what this means, but of note is that anytime a parking lot is maintained, including seal coating, beautified, which is landscaping, modified, or otherwise improved, which includes fencing and things like that, it has to be brought into compliance with the accessibility code. So this includes ramps, number of spaces, things like that. So we're going to be taking a look at that. Some of the organizations, especially building code organizations that Erica attends meetings on, they're going to start having seminars on these things, because how to interpret the new ADA, because as often with, and I say ADA, it's the state, the Illinois Accessibility Code, as I should be saying, not the federal ADA. But how to interpret this, what does it really mean? You know, do they really mean when someone seal coats, then if there's not the appropriate slope to their ramp? You know, so luckily we did our parking lot this summer. But we need to find out what this means for us, and if we have to change any permitting processes, because if there's things that we're going to be responsible for, we're going to have oversight. So we're just going to be working on it. It's going to take some time to figure it all out. That's it.
Questions for the administrator? Thank you for the thorough report. Okay, thank you very much. We can move to agenda item 10, clerk's report.
The winter holiday waste collection schedule. Christmas falls on Tuesday this year, which affects collection. So it will be delayed one day to Thursday. I will post that on the website, so you can have a reminder that way, and residents can access that information anytime. And I also want to add that the Christmas tree pickup is scheduled. We're waiting to hear back from our waste management contact for that. It's probably going to be the third week in January, which would be the 16th, and I'll post that also on the website so everyone knows of that date. Next is the winter newsletter. We're working on that, so if anyone would like to contribute any information to the newsletter, we'd like to get it out in early January to residents. So if I could have any information sent to me by Monday the 10th, that would be great. Thank you.
Questions for the clerk?
Yeah, just one question was on the newsletter. At a meeting I was having with the village administrator here about Lane, she was talking about maybe having it out so it's received in the first week in January or second week. Will that work? Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, we can go to the standing committees. 11A, I'll do A and D at the same time. which are mine. I'm actually going to defer because branding and communications has been working with community relations on the focus groups, and I'm going to let Trustee Thompson, who's done all the work here, do that one. With regard to external relations, Don Serino and I had spoken prior to this evening, so the list of stuff that I mentioned were things he and I had talked about ahead of time by way of preparation to make the most out of his presentation to the board. And we'll get that fired up, and Randy, to your point, and John, to yours, we'll get with our new state legislator and look to do things with her and have a good relationship there as we've had with others in the past. Now, we still have Senator McConkey and Representative McSweeney. So those are my reports real quickly. 11B, Community Relations, Trustee Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let's talk about the focus groups first. And also, I would like to remind everyone that Village Administrator Karen Bell-Lang, Kathleen Scott, and Peter Schoenweiser, Moser did just wonderful work in putting this together, and I appreciate that very much. We had the holiday season activities caused our December focus group dates to be canceled, except for one. And interestingly enough, because it was the only one that we had going, it consisted of 5 residents living in Lake Barrington for 5 years or less, and 1 living here 10 years or more. And that combination raised some excellent results. It was a terrific combination between the two types of participants. And I've spoken to our moderator, Kathleen Scott, and she's in the process of completing the workbooks and the detailed report. But the evening of the focus group, she and I talked afterwards, and she was really excited about what had happened. She felt that it was very well done, and that the participants were very eager to talk about their issues and what the Village of Lake Barrington meant to them. So, as I said, that's really a wonderful start. Now, Village Administrator Karen Bell-Lang and I have worked on the new dates, and they'll be January 15, 16, 24, 26, and 30. Based upon this first focus group, which had combined categories in it, I feel that we should have another combined categories focus group, and 2 each of the 5 years and less, and 2 of the 10 years or more. A total of 5. So we'll be having those in January, hopefully, and all the information will be going out. And also, we're going to put the information into the newsletter. So we hope that will get people to email or call in to say they're interested in being part of the focus groups. So we'll be reporting back in January on that. Let's see, Farmers Market. In January, I'm meeting with a person who has managed multiple farmers markets in the Lake County, and she'll be providing us with some important information for our farmers markets, and which will allow us to make them bigger and better than ever. Let's see, the wall mural, or as some people have called it, the cartoon. I'm working with Barrington High School. We're in discussion about what we might want to do with the mural as it is currently, and what things we may do to it to improve it. So I'll be reporting back on that once I have that information. Let's see. Meanwhile, you may remember I have a plan to assemble musical nights at Friar Farm. The first meeting was attended by me. So,
was there entertainment?
Yes, me ranting. So I'm in the process of recontacting all those people who said they were going to show up, and we're also going to put that into the newsletter as well. So hopefully we'll have some more people. Veterans of LBS and the Toys for Tots. Veterans of LBS and the LBS residents donated over $4,000 in new toys to the U.S. Marines Toys for Tots program. They obliterated the 2017 $3,700 donation. And toys are still coming in. Those, for example, here at Village Hall will be given to the Veterans of LBS this weekend, and those will also go to the U.S. Marines. I'll tell you, the people here at the village and the LBS residents and residents in the village have been wonderfully generous again this year, and the veterans really thank them for what they've done. And that is my report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Are there questions for Trustee Thompson? All righty. Thank you, Jim. I'm really excited about these resident focus groups. It has two benefits. Not only do we get a better insight into how to communicate the village's value to potential future residents, but we get more people involved in what we do.
Yes, which is wonderful.
Just like the folks from the Park District.
Yes.
It's wonderful to see people be interested and care about that.
Thank you. Let me also say that I've spoken with the people who are here tonight from the Lake Barrington Park District, and also with Ryan from Max Strategies. And the Park District Board is going to prepare some notes, some information about where they think they want to go beginning in 2019. And once they have that prepared, then we will have a conference call to discuss it and to see where we go. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. And are there any other comments or questions for Trustee Thompson? If not, under 11C, since Trustee Burke is not here, in the prior committee of the whole, the administrator reported that there is some potential retail activity along Route 14, and we'll be keeping an eye on that. Karen, is there anything else you'd like to add on this bay?
No.
11E, Finance, HR, and Administration, Trustee Rigby.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report.
All right, that's a good news. 11F, Open Spaces and Village Facilities, Trustee Mitchell.
Nothing to report, but in January, we will start prioritizing.
Got it. Okay, 11G, Public Safety and Gated Communities, Trustee Schott.
Thank you, President Richardson. You have before you an updated emergency operations plan. My gratitude and thanks to Administrator Shannon Lang for making this happen. I mentioned a couple of months ago that we probably needed to update it, and you have before you an updated version, which is essential and something that we seriously need to approve and then abide by, and obviously keep improving it. So my thanks very, very much. Last Friday, John Eidelberg was sworn in as our new Lake County Sheriff. He previously served in the U.S. Marine Corps and served for over 30 years as a law enforcement officer, both local and federal levels, bringing a wealth of professional community service to lead the Lake County Sheriff's Department office. He was sworn in late last week, but I think the ceremonial swearing in was yesterday at the Lake County Courthouse. So we have a new sheriff, and I know I think Deputy Stankwitz has met him, or is in, tell us a little bit about, or whatever your experience has been.
Well, we just started, we got sworn in yesterday, so I went yesterday to our main department. But I don't know that much about him, still just saying what you just said, so. But he seems like he's all right, very relaxed, and it looks like he's, I don't know, it seems positive, and he wants to make a lot of changes, so we're kind of looking forward to it, because I think we need one really bad.
Yeah.
Everyone never said it, so we're looking forward to it, so. So, yeah.
I want to also thank Deputy Stankwitz for, I attended a meeting of the Enclave HOA, and one of the items that was brought up was that they believed that they weren't getting fair enough control from the Lake County Sheriff's Department, and I believe you have responded, had been, but responded even more so.
Yeah. So I've been, since I got your email, I've been there every day, and just, I guess, they want to just see someone more in that area next to that house, because usually I'm in that subdivision every day.
Yeah.
So,
That's part of what we can do, and I think Administrator Dalton Lang indicates too, when we have a particular need, President Richardson is also, we get great response and great reaction as a result from the Sheriff's Department, so.
try to make it into as many subdivisions as I can, and then when I hear that I'm not in one, I'll try to, you can only hit so many in a night between calls, but I do attempt it.
Yes.
So just so you guys know I do. So, that's about
If
it.
you
Nothing,
see the
there's
great-
nothing.
You see the great big SUV, you'll know it's yours, correct?
That's correct, that's me.
That's you.
Mhm.
Anything special other than that happening? in the area?
Everything is, so
Why?
you won't jinx anything, everything's been good.
Good.
We haven't had anything major, I have nothing to report, it's been just nice and.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sure.
We do get a report, Karen and I both get a report from the Sheriff's Office on their activities for a month, and it's kind of interesting, like for the month of October, 1 domestic battery, 6 burglaries from motor vehicles, and we've talked about that, what you need to do to make sure your car's locked. 1 theft, only 1 theft over $500 that they investigated. 3 $500 under, 1 DUI and 1 disorderly conduct, so it's kind of behaving yourselves for the most part.
Santa Claus is coming.
Santa Claus is coming, so watch your holiday decorations. Did go to the Barrington Countryside Fire Protection District meeting. They passed, as opposed to our $488,000 tax levy, I just want you to know that the tax levy for the Barrington Countryside Fire Protection District next year will be $6,455,000. So it's interesting, they're still working on their additional station next to Prairie Middle School about what they're going to do with that property. School district has got some concerns about that, and we obviously thank that department, as Administrator Dalton Lang has said, for taking care of the flags on a regular basis outside of the village hall. I go to the Wakanda Fire District meeting. They approved their tax levy a little bit higher than Barrington Countryside, so I won't mention, but we get our excellent protection out of both. Again, outsourcing, the village doesn't, but we get the Barrington Countryside Fire Protection District and Wakanda to take care of that for us. So I think we're very fortunate. Both departments are excellent. BACOG. They had one meeting on bus radio emergency, utilizing the school district's buses in case of emergency. There's a follow-up meeting for that next Tuesday from 9 to 11 at the Barrington Village Hall, which I will be attending. Barrington Transportation Company needs permission with each police and fire department to set up those radio operations, so they're working on establishing that. Also, their next tabletop will be on February 1st, and I mentioned last time I had a brain freeze, it's on water contamination. What happens if someone contaminates the water system in your private wells, in any wells, and you think how susceptible we are and what impact it can have. 110 homes were without power. What happens if we start contaminating the water supply? What that can be. As far as gated communities, as I indicated, I did attend the Enclave's annual meeting. It was held here at the Village Hall last week. They had about 20 people in attendance. They elected their new officers for the coming year. Jim Riley is the president of that HOA. It was a good meeting. I'm glad I attended. A couple of things they brought up. One was a vacant house that they were concerned about police surveillance on. Obviously, those are high-end homes, and the residents over there are concerned that you got a vacant place with a car out front, driveway hasn't been plowed, it's susceptible, so will you keep an extra eye on it? And they have done that. But they did have, in addition to that, they did make one request, and I passed it along to Administrator Dalton Lang, and that is they would like to see if we could investigate the installation of a street light at the intersection of Gray Barn Lane and Kelsey Road, similar to most every other intersection along Kelsey Road that has a light there. It's just a light over the intersection.
Oh, yeah.
Because they.
Not a stop.
Not a stoplight, okay.
Just like the Casey Court.
Yeah, right.
At the back.
It's that not only the enclave, but obviously that Gray Barn Lane, the residents
Absolutely.
along there, so that's something to follow up on. What did I get from Tallgrass? Tallgrass report. They have a solid year at Tallgrass with an additional to be built contract last month. They had two closings in November, another scheduled for late December, and they are looking forward to a successful 2019. And LBS, we lit the Christmas tree that we have last week, so we're off and running, and that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Questions for Trustee Schaller?
They're busy.
Yeah.
Awesome. The excitement in your area is actually like mine is. I don't like it. It's really exciting in public safety.
Yeah, no, I know. But if you do have it, that's the one thing. I mean, you let them know through Karen, through me, through anyone, and the response. I usually meet with Chris Thompson, the lieutenant, probably about once a month, just to get updated. And I know he meets with Karen as well. I just think it's good to have a good relationship. They're vital to us, but they do respond, just like this. You bring up something, and they do respond quickly, and that's, I'm grateful for that. I think we all will be grateful for that, so.
Well, with the world being the way it is, having that kind of is really important.
It is. And especially their resources. You know, you still see some little black and white SWAT car going up Highway 59 chasing speeders, you know, and whereas the Lake County Sheriff's Department, and when they need the resources, we can have 10 squads, a helicopter, the whole thing. It's a great resource to have. So,
Well, I appreciate that. Any further questions for Trustee Schaller? Then 11H, Roads and Infrastructure, Trustee Perkins.
Thank you. Well, as you all know, if you were here last week, we had snow, and I felt that, I'm sure you all did too, that Lake County did an excellent job getting roads cleared.
Cuba Township.
Cuba Township.
Cuba Township, yes. So that's good to hear. Also, Lake County has a website. It's called Lake County Passage. It's lakecountypassage.com, and you can go on the website and view some of the major intersections live to see how the weather is and how the roads are. How you can obviously see how the weather is, but how the roads are looking and if they've been cleared. You can go on this website and get a video tour of the website, and then it shows maps of where the cameras are set. Okay. And then also next Monday, Karen and I have a meeting to go for a little drive, and we're going to check out Anderson Road. She's going to get some hands-on education on the conditions of the roads and how they determine which roads are in need of repair. So thank you, Karen, for taking time out of your super busy schedule to.
You notice I planned it around lunch, so.
So, yes, that's all I have.
Thank you. Are there questions for Trustee Perkins?
Yes, I have one. I'm sorry, I did not catch what was that website?
It's lakecountypassage.com.
Thank you.
They're also on the AM radio.
And just a comment, I don't know, it's probably Karen, I've done this before, been previously contacted Lake County Department of Transportation when the lights get messed up at River and Kelsey, and they are still not.
They are aware of that, and they've been working on it since the contractor
messed it up.
Had a glitch. So they are quite aware of it. We've had some correspondence.
Thank you. I'm getting neighborly complaints because,
Sit there on the switch quickly.
well, it runs through a complete cycle. You could be the only car there and it will go through the protected left turns on the 3 others. And then
Yeah, the loops aren't working.
Yeah.
it's not. So thank you. All right. Because I used to just have to stop and ask Leon, our local maintenance guy. We don't seem to have one anymore. But thank you.
Further questions?
I'm going to ask Karen, I'm not sure who would handle this, but I noticed the other day, and I noticed it as we're driving around even for 2 or 3 days, some of the lights up, just the direction of the snow and the ice was hitting. Like, we pulled up, I pulled up to the stoplight, and I was like, is it red, is it green, is it yellow?
Oh, that's,
Yeah, so and they're so high, I don't know how they could actually get to it.
So what they're looking at now, those are the new LED traffic signal lights, and the LEDs do not create heat. They're very energy efficient. And the Herald actually wrote a story on this because the lights, the way the snow hit, you're absolutely correct. And you can just see kind of a little fade of red or green or yellow behind that snow. So they're working on adapting the LED lights to have some kind of heating system. It's not going to happen instantly, but they're aware of it. Yeah, with the snow like we had last week, it was very obvious. And LED lights have been around for a while now. It's just we had the right storm, you know.
Maybe we'll have to add one incandescent bulb just to keep it warm.
Switch it all back.
Yeah.
Well, we used to have the lamp lighters in the old days. Maybe we need to have the stoplight sweepers.
As long as that lamplighter doesn't get a pension funded by
By another government.
Okay. There is no agenda item 12 under old business, so we can move to 13 ordinances. A, emergency operations plan adoption. Administrator Lane, you want to maybe walk us through this, and then Trustee Schaller as chair, if you want to jump in on some of that, please feel free to do so.
Sure. I gave a little background about the Emergency Services and Disaster Agency. That's our official title for this emergency operations plan in our ordinance. And it was first established in 2008, and there were some updates to the plan in 2013, but they were not adopted by ordinance. And recently, Trustee Schaller and myself, along with Chief Cryer and Laura Niccolini from LDS, gave some input. What we're thinking is we'll probably be updating this document probably at least once a year, just to keep it current and fresh. The binder you have is obviously in a binder form, so that if one sheet is changed, we can just insert different sheets, and so that'll help with it. And it's in red, so you can see like which is the emergency binder. Attorney Bateman has updated the code portions that relate to this, and another part of the requirements for this are certain people here that are dealing with spending money if there was a disaster have to be sworn in and take an oath, and Attorney Bateman will be administering that oath after the ordinance is passed. And the reason for that is FEMA requires it in order for us to get any money in the event there is a disaster that we're asking FEMA for some money back for. So it's dotting an I and crossing a T, and Treasurer Hirsch will be part of that as well. Trustee Schaller, do you have any other?
No, just a lot of gratitude to update this. What happens if we have an emergency? And the one thing I'd ask all of you to do is read it, become familiar with it, because you're all responsible one way or the other. So it's important that we have it in place. It's important we know that it's in place, and it's important we know what to do if and when we need it. So, as I said, it's an important part. We've been very, very lucky that we haven't had to exercise anything like this since I've lived here. Doesn't necessarily mean that tomorrow, not going to have the fires like California, but we could have the tornadoes like Taylorville just the other night. We could have an ice storm. We could have all kinds of things. So this just sets we're fortunate again that we have the resources of the Sheriff's Department, Cuba Township, the fire departments that really we will need to rely upon in case we need to exercise this. But the initial responsibility for starting a plan begins with the local municipality. So it's essential that you know what's in it and we know what we need to do if we have that emergency. So my thanks especially to Administrator Dalton Lang, because it needed to be updated and she took it and ran with it, and there you have it before you. So.
Jim, did you have anything else to add about the
I don't think so. I think I did add to the village code a language that reflects the provisions of the emergency interim succession statute of the state. And that's just basically good housekeeping, if the village president is not available or worse, it tells who steps up next.
And I would like to note that Lisa got another promotion. She's the assistant ESDA coordinator now. So not only is she the liaison to the park district, she's also the assistant.
Wow. That's kind of just like how Jeff volunteered to be on the park board, right? Same dynamic, got it.
Chain of command.
Yeah, I'm surprised your husband isn't that.
So with that, we would need a motion to approve.
Well, I have a question.
Thank you. I mean, you know what good work looks like when you do this for a while, and we've all been up here for a long time, so thank you, because this is a really fun piece of work. Chair would therefore like a motion to approve.
Excuse me, Mr. President, I have a question.
Oh, of course you may.
Thank you. On page 10, under community alerts and media, we have public information, media contacts, and max strategies is listed there. In what capacity do you see them working?
So depending on the type of emergency and what's going on, if we have to get media alerts out, he would be the go-to person, and then he could handle all the media, because depending upon, you could have 32 different TV stations.
So does he have a copy of this?
He does not yet until after we pass it, but he's on the list to get one.
Thank you. That's all, Mr. President.
Good question. Thank you for it. Okay, Chair would like a motion to approve ordinance number 2018-0-27. Thank you, Lisa. An ordinance amending the Lake Barrington Village Code, Chapter 13, Emergency Services, Disaster Agency, and Operations Plan of Title I, Administration, and adopting the revised Emergency Operations Plan. May I have that?
So moved.
Thank you by Trustee Shellerman. Second by Trustee Mitchell. Thank you both, gentlemen. Clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Schaller?
Yes.
Trustee Mitchell?
Yes.
Trustee Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Rigby? Trustee Thompson?
Yes.
President Richardson?
Yes, thank you. No agenda items under
Before you go forward, can Attorney Bateman administer the oath, and then
Absolutely.
ask that?
If Administrator Dalton Lang and Village Clerk Palapa and President Richardson and Trustee Schaller and Treasurer Hirsch would all stand up and raise your right hand and be sworn.
Do as a line.
Yes, we'll do it all at once.
What are the lines?
If you repeat after me, I do solemnly swear or affirm
I do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
and bear true faith and allegiance
and bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois
and the territory, institutions, and facilities
and the territory, institutions, and facilities
thereof, both public and private,
against
all enemies,
all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will
and that I will
well and faithfully discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
And I do further swear or affirm
And I do further swear or affirm
that I do not advocate, nor have I been a member of any political party or organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state by force or violence, and that during such time as I am affiliated with the Village of Lake Barrington's Emergency Services, as I am affiliated with the Village of Lake Barrington's Emergency Services and Disaster Agency, I will not advocate nor become a member of any political party or organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States of this state by force or violence.
So help me God.
And I will pass around a sheet for everybody to sign.
Just out of curiosity, where did the text for that come from?
It's like from FEMA through the Village of Evanston. Yeah. So we do not.
Yeah, right. We'll be watching.
So thank you all for doing that. Now it's very official.
Yes.
And I appreciate that.
Okay, John.
Okay.
Okey doke. We can move on to section agenda item 15, new business. Excuse me. A is employee health insurance, and we'll have the treasurer come up, I think, and talk about this. And of course, Trustee Rigby, who so ably chairs the Finance, HR, and Administration Committee, welcome to offer thoughts as well. I want to thank you and Trustee Rigby for what I know is an awful lot of work.
Yes, that's good. We worked this year again with our same insurance agent, Joe Liberty from Better Business Planning. He has gone out and secured quotes from different carriers, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Humana, and United Healthcare. And by far, the plan we had last year is recommending for us to take again this year with Blue Cross Blue Shield. We're going to offer a PPO, we'd like to offer a PPO version to the employees and also then an HMO version for their options for their choice. So the plan is age rated. Each employee will bear a cost for the premium of 10% for HMO participants, 20% for the PPO participants, and that's based completely on age and gender by employee. We're not big enough to do composite rating, it's all age-based. We've also went to institute an FSA and an HSA plan this year to go along with those various insurance options. The FSA would be predominantly for the HMO participants and the HSA for the PPO participants. And that's to incentivize some smart healthcare choices and options when spending money. A lot of it, a portion will be from the village and a portion from the employee. For the high deductible plans, which is the PPO, the village will still have the DAC card this year for the employee reimbursements up to $9,000. So it's just kind of a quick nutshell. We did talk at length in committee. Karen, do you want to add anything else that I may have missed? Or?
The HMO will have a $500 DAC card.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And that's about it.
That's about it. If each employee chooses the same plans as they were on last year and totally maxes out the insurance, the cost of the village is $84,000. We would recommend that would be the budget amount for 2018 or 2019 calendar year. That'll span 2 fiscal years since our fiscal year ends April 30th. We'll take care of that in budgeting process coming up shortly. Questions or?
Are there questions for the treasurer on this item? Again, I want to thank you. Compensation consists of a lot of things, but perhaps most important these days, more than even salary, is the right health insurance, because those expenses can be catastrophic for families.
Absolutely.
We want our employees to know that they're valued, that we greatly appreciate them, and having the right benefits in place is a sign of sincere, faithful workplace. I'd like to recognize Trustee Rigby for comments he'd like to make. Again, thank you for his work.
I think Peggy and Karen have done a great job explaining this. We discussed it at length in the committee of the whole. And we had a preliminary review last month as well, so I think I have no further comment.
Are there further questions from the board? There being none, Chair would like a motion to approve an employee health and dental plan with Blue Cross Blue Shield, including the establishment of an FSA and HSA as administered by Better Business Planning Incorporated. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
By Trustee Rigby, thank you. May I have a
Second.
Second by Trustee Thompson. Thank you both, gentlemen. Clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Rigby?
Aye.
Trustee Thompson?
Yes.
Trustee Mitchell?
Yes.
Trustee Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Schaller?
Yes.
President Richardson?
Yes, ma'am. I don't believe, Mr. Baker, we need closed session. So guess what we get to do? My favorite motion, number E. Chair would like a motion to adjourn.
So.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.